This is the ultimate solution to pollution and the so-called energy crisis. If there really is an energy crisis, much of the blame can be laid to the good people of those major world governments responsible for printing all that money during the late 1960s. When that nearly worthless paper money hit the market, it caused a worldwide financial crisis, which forced several governments in the early 1970s to publicly admit they were nearly bankrupt. The price of crude oil soared, and the United States, with the rest of the world, was hit by runaway inflation. Don't cry, America. I'll protect you. And yes, you can keep your beautiful big car. America is not for sale. Less food for more money, less work for more money, and less oil for more money will ruin the free enterprise system and our savings and pension plans. This fat hog, whether it knows it or not, will soon be dead. Our esteemed leaders in Washington are telling us to save energy. Here is one time when they're right. We already import 50% of our oil, and it's expensive. The first mistake in our involvement with oil occurred in 1851. That was when a Polish chemist, Łukasz, purified crude oil, extracting naphtha. That basically ended the age of burning candles for light and began the new era of burning kerosene in lamps. We've abandoned burning kerosene in lanterns as a major source of illumination, but a byproduct remains from which we have not yet escaped, burning hydrocarbons. But let's consider a potential source of cheap energy that for most of the world is anything but scarce: water. For those of us who have them, we can always trap rainwater in our swimming pools, and it's not too likely anyone would dare to suggest a tax be levied against rainwater. And potential users would find more than enough energy available from the water in swimming pools because the ingredients for all this energy are there naturally. The key to tapping water and extracting its energy practically is this. Using more conventional means, such as electricity, for example, water can be split into oxygen and hydrogen. Those two elements would then provide a means of combustion to heat or cool your home, or your store or factory, and to supply power to your car or truck or bus or tractor. Since the end product of burning hydrogen is water, you'll eventually see that basic form of energy recycled back into your swimming pool the next time it rains. Before you hurt yourself laughing, this is not science fiction. It is science fact, a reality. This is an electrolyzer. It's what does the job of splitting water into oxygen and hydrogen. It can do it in your garage and provide not only the necessary power for your car, but heat or cool air for your home and energy for cooking. At the Billings Laboratories in Provo, Utah, here in the United States, was built years ago the first safe water electrolyzer. When the electrolyzer is hooked up to a 220-volt outlet and a water faucet in your garage, it can produce 5 pounds of hydrogen in 45 minutes, enough energy for your car to take you 100 miles. And it doesn't matter if your car is a subcompact or a road hog. By merely pressing a button on the instrument panel, an electronic device takes over and switches the power from hydrogen to gasoline, if you can still get it or afford it. The heart of the electrolyzer, here on the right, is surprisingly compact, about the size of your 2 fists. This is a cross-section of the electrolyzer. The yellow portion of the diagram at the top is the electrode that produces hydrogen. The blue at the bottom is the electrode that produces oxygen from water. In this example, the electrolyzer is using electrolyte Nafion membranes manufactured by DuPont as a solid electrolyte. The process of electrolysis is quite old. Smoluchowski, a famous Polish physicist who some years before he died in 1917 counted Albert Einstein among his students, originated the zeta potential equation. The zeta potential concerns the change of potential on a solid-liquid interface. Here, you see the drop of zeta potential on the solid-liquid interface, and the reaction of hydrated ions at the electrodes, and the mechanical and electrochemical properties of Nafion. Simply put, the electrolyzer meets its requirements. It also means the United States and the rest of the world have at hand the ability to run cars, heat, cool, and otherwise supply power to a variety of machines with a virtually unlimited source of energy, hydrogen. Think about it. farm equipment powered by hydrogen. Not only an unlimited supply, but cheap energy that will have a major impact in the marketplace as it contributes to what must occur next, a major drop in the cost of food. But that's not all. We could save at least 40% in the energy used in conventional farming methods if this type of combine were more widely used. Since Americans aren't moles or rats, there's little point to going underground for coal when hydrogen is so readily available for cheap energy. There's also this factor. An outgrowth of the coal industry is the shortened lifespan of the average miner through accidents and lung diseases, such as silicosis. There's more: heart and vascular diseases, kidney and lung diseases, and silicotuberculosis. But there's the question of how we are going to produce more electricity for power and make it cheap and easy. One way is the wind. Another, the sun. In 1973, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Minsky created the means to produce inexpensive silicon phosphorus solar voltaic cells by using his special Minsky furnace. Unfortunately, the furnace was never made large enough to produce in quantity the sheets of this material that could have carpeted a fair-sized chunk of Arizona. But Oshinsky developed the more efficient silicon hydrogen fluorine photovoltaic solar cells, which can be placed virtually anywhere. In fact, you can cover the roof of your home with the cells, and they're so sensitive, they'll work by moonlight. There's more. Professor Bill Mouton of Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana, and Peter Lissaman of AeroVironment Incorporated in Pasadena, California, have come up with a unique way to use the power of the ocean. It's the double-bladed water turbine. The blades are 168 meters long, and in their way, they serve ecology because there's a space between each blade 60 feet across. That gap allows fish to swim freely through the turbine without injury. The plan would be to anchor the water turbine 30 meters below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean in the middle of the Gulf Stream, some 132 kilometers east and 192 kilometers north of Miami, Florida. The Gulf Stream flows at a speed of 2.5 meters per second in the summer and 1.5 meters per second in the winter. Placing 230 water turbines in parallel, say Professor Mouton and Peter Lissaman, they could generate 10,000 megawatts of electricity. The cost, less than $10 billion. Or to put it another way, under $1 a watt. Today, the cost of a watt runs between $1.50 and $6. Those same 230 water turbines could replace 10 nuclear power plants. And try this exercise. 2,300 water turbines generating 100,000 megawatts could replace 100 nuclear power plants of the future. Or carry it a few steps further. 23,000 water turbines putting out 1,100,000 megawatts could replace 1,000 nuclear power plants. The same thing could be accomplished in the Pacific Ocean, this time using the Japanese current off California. Enough power could be generated to conceivably take care of much of, if not all, the electrical needs of the entire West Coast. As taxpayers, we should be spending our money on a safe and clean power source, a power source owned by the American people and safeguarded by the U.S. Navy. The U.S. government has already advanced $1 million for testing of the water turbine in the Mississippi River. The prototype water turbines work. The technology is here. A Polish mathematician, Stanislaw Ulam, in 1941, gave to the United States government the equation for the hydrogen bomb. Since then, scientists have been trying to use hydrogen fusion for peaceful means. We wish them the best of luck. We should not build any more nuclear power plants because one of these days, plutonium contamination through an accident or otherwise will kill us all. Plutonium pellets will circulate in our bloodstream and spread to the lymphatic system of our bodies, and guaranteed we will die, like this victim here. Even rats, among the hardiest of all creatures on this earth, will not survive. The automobile industry seems to have a strange way of putting to good use space-age technology. The growth of cancer, seen here as white dots, has been increasing at the same rate as automobile production since 1930. Toxic fumes such as nitrogen monoxide, nitrodioxide, and nitrotrioxide all have been doing their part in contributing to lung cancer. And that last statistic does not include cancer induced by asbestos. People suffering from emphysema are dying at a much faster rate than ever before. The morbidity and mortality of victims of emphysema are linked directly to hydrocarbons and toxic fumes from automobiles. The cost of treatment and, above all, the misery of the victims is nearly beyond comprehension. A half-century ago, Rudolf Arnold Aron unveiled before the World Energy Conference in Berlin his invention, the internal electrolyzer, and that was in 1930. Aron had been working on his multi-fuel engine since 1920. It could run on propane, or alcohol, or hydrogen. After the Berlin Conference, the British invited Aron to England, where he continued his research. 5 years later, Australian businessmen and engineers checked out Aron's multi-fuel engine. It should be noted that not one automotive expert from Detroit was there then, any more than they were around in 1940 when the British deported Aron to Canada to keep him out of Nazi Germany and so he could continue his research. During those war years of gas rationing, the United States might have learned something about hydrogen. What's good for the automobile industry isn't necessarily good for America. Detroit blew it, but so did the Hindenburg. Hydrogen is not visible when burning. What you see here is burning diesel fuel and the dirigible structure, not hydrogen. The fire began at the rear of the airship, and it was obviously not one of the better uses of hydrogen. But here is something that is, the hydrogen-powered bus. Built several years ago in Provo, Utah, it's what hydrogen is all about. The fuel is stored as small metallic particles consisting of iron, titanium in the hydride tanks. The exhaust temperature from the engine releases hydrogen to the gaseous carburetor and then to the engine, providing power. Storing the hydrogen fuel in this manner is totally safe, something that cannot be said about highly vulnerable gasoline tanks. As you can see, putting hydrogen in your tank is 1/3 more efficient than gasoline, from 440 miles on gas to 640 miles on hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen played an important role in the U.S. space program. In another key role, liquid hydrogen could power a hypersonic jet aircraft from New York to Los Angeles in less than 1 hour. That's assuming the potential of liquid hydrogen is developed. That same aircraft could then fly non-stop from Los Angeles to Tokyo in 2 hours and 15 minutes, or from New York to London in under 1 hour. Aircraft using liquid hydrogen would be 3 times quieter than jets burning kerosene. They would require less than half the space for runways necessary for today's jet transports. Giant aircraft could even be developed for vertical takeoffs and landings. And because the engines are integrated into the basic structure of the aircraft, there is no fear of an engine tearing loose from a wing, and because a type of ramjet is cheaper to build. It makes one wonder why we don't have liquid hydrogen facilities at airports. And let's not forget the railroads, one of the oldest forms of mass transit in the United States. The railroads can easily introduce an Aron type of hydrogen injector to the diesel engine and use preferably gaseous rather than liquid hydrogen from the railroad fuel depots. In this car, gasoline in the tank shown in yellow can run the car when an electronic device is activated from the instrument panel, or the fuel can be switched to hydrogen. This in a conventional internal combustion engine. The conventional engine should be replaced in the future by a hydrogen fuel cell, which produces electricity. That, in turn, can power a front-wheel drive, brushless, peak energy demanding electric motor. And by using ordinary water from a faucet in your home into an electrolyzer, you have an electric car. an electric car that eliminates costly and impractical batteries. Eliminating a lot of metallic junk, starting with present-day automobile engines, will save millions of Americans the pain and suffering from red lung disease caused by mining iron. Until we reach that point in our technology and willingness to spend the money, hydrogen is the answer for today. This film is protected under copyright laws and may not be used for any purpose without the express written consent of the producers. This is Del Wade.